There is intention in everything. So you want to be intentional with the colors you pick. You want to be intentional with your logo size, and that bleeds right into everything.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing experiences and memories for your customers. And it's Memory Makers Podcast, because we're feeling hot, because it is dog days of summer, y'all. Really excited for our episode that we have today. I'm joined by Courtney Drahos, who is the Director of Sales at Party Center Software. Courtney, how are you, amiga?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Stoked to be here.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you on. One, we get to do this because you guys are such an amazing partner with Amusement 360 and that whole event, but also just the energy and the knowledge and the care that you bring. I'm super excited for our topic today because I think that it is something that I think gets underthought, if that's, not enough attention early on in the process of, hey, we need to get these things all lined up and we need to try to do, such a variety of things. But we also have to logistically look at how some of these things like our marketing or our messaging and our software platforms, like how do we start to actually have these in place so they're able to do some of the lifting for us. So I'm excited for us to dive in on that. But first, just because I always love to have a little bit of insight on with our guests, do you mind giving us the quick 30-second kind of run through? How did you find yourself into this crazy, awesome industry that we're in, and any fun experience that you had prior?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in this industry for about 6 years now. I was in the world of software sales and MSPs before this. So a lot more fun of an industry I'm in now. A little bit dry over there. But I actually jumped in. I had a friend that, was part of PCS and was like, this industry is so much fun. People are great. I'm a mom of four myself, so I'm not a stranger to going to family entertainment centers or birthday parties and all that fun stuff. So it just was a very natural fit. And I just absolutely love it. The people in our industry are like no other out there. They are passionate, they are kind, and they generally want just to create memories for their community, and they're just full of good people. So I love the industry and I will not be going anywhere.
Heck yeah. It's so funny. I was just doing a meeting today and there was a partner of ours. They were hiring a couple of new members to their team. And so we were doing a little bit of lunch and learn of, hey, this is how we do our thing. Here's how we integrate with you guys. And I said, you guys will find that you'll either have people that have been in the industry for 5 years or 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's nuts because we are so lucky to get to do what we do in this industry. Just with the majority of the people that are in it are just fabulous and care about others. And we're a service-oriented industry for our guests, and that translates up the pipeline all the way. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's plus you get to be kind of the bad girl or the bad boy of the family when it's, the doctors and the accountants are talking about their fuddy-duddy nonsense. And it's like, oh, well, we just did this really cool laser tag, or we just helped somebody totally change how they're getting after it with birthday parties and making memories. So we definitely get the cooler bragging rights when it comes to that. So speaking of that, I'm going to jump right in on this first one with our focus of what are some of the challenges that you typically see operators facing when they're trying to make heads or tails of getting the word out and sharing the brand with guests as they're planning to open?
So I think the number one word that everybody feels is just overwhelming. They just are overwhelmed. They know they need to market. They know they need to have a cohesive brand and be top of mind and be engaged, but they have zero clue how to go about doing that. They just don't understand how to go about it, how much money to put towards a budget to help them get out there. They have a hard time determining, what can they do in-house versus what does it make more sense to outsource. So it's really just a giant question mark of like, I have this need, I just have zero idea how to fill it.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think it's so important, especially for folks who are thinking of opening up their first location, is where and how are you meeting other operators and finding that network of people that you can ask who have been in those situations and have been through it, or talking with folks like you guys where it's, hey, we get to see a lot of different clients try this a number of different ways. And in some situations, this is what works really well. Some situations, this is what works really well. But the whole industry, for the most part, is so willing to have that kind of open hand mentality and give insights of, ooh, hey, we didn't start, we didn't know where to start with this. And you talk to them and you start to find out, hey, some of the kind of core things that you need is that solid brand foundation. And, what does that actually include? And so would you mind sharing with us a couple of those things of, hey, if it's somebody that is just starting out, it's, okay, start to get an idea for the vibe and the tempo and the personality that you want to have, but then where do we need to start kind of making some tangible directions towards with that brand identity even?
Absolutely. And I love that you said it's important to surround yourself with owners and operators who have been there. Definitely you want to get out to the educational, type of industry events, and you want to join Facebook groups and, resources like that are going to help you feel confident in the direction you want to go. And that step two is like, you have to make decisions. You have to, pull the trigger and decide what you want your brand to be. So I encourage all of my customers to think of, what do you want people to feel when they walk into your center? What do you want them to, walk out feeling? Happy, excited. Maybe it's like a thrill-seeking facility. You want them to feel a little bit anxious, right? So whatever feeling that you want, your brand should portray that, warmth, welcoming, excitement. And you want to make sure that that is seen on your logo through your colors. There's a science behind everything. The colors they pick, the way things are laid out, the fonts. So, and there are resources out there that can help you understand what certain fonts and certain colors will make people feel and your customers feel. So there is intention in everything. So you want to be intentional with the colors you pick. You want to be intentional with your logo size, and that bleeds right into everything. Once you have a branding kit, which is like your logo and your colors, then we take that next phase, which is like websites and getting on social.
Yeah.
So those are the two I say, let's get that. That's step one is you have your logo. Do you have the warm fuzzies or whatever feeling you want behind it? Let's get it all together with a pretty bow. And now let's go and apply it in these different places to start to get you engaged with your audience.
Well, and I think it's so important as well, just because even if you're at the earliest stages of even putting together your business plan and things like that, having an aesthetic and a feeling and you want them to be able to emotionally connect with that, it just as you're going through and finding lending partners and other things, because you want them to feel the excitement or those emotions that you're trying to create. But then to your point is you also then have some of those assets standardized and refined, and I'm sure it will go through multiple iterations, and you get to that point of, hey, the website and the social, we need to start getting this in play so that way we can actually have a kind of virtual presence of the persona of what our business is going to be. So that way people can identify and relate to it visually before, they've even set foot in your facility or before you've even opened. And you mentioned in kind of some of our pre-planning discussion about, hey, you need to have this website finished and in place before you open in order to be able to start telling the story about it and getting some of that, because you need a runway for folks to be aware that you exist now in their universe and be able to relate to it. So what are some of the ideas that you have when you talk about, hey, you got to have this website before you can make the hype?
Absolutely. Website is, for lack of a better way of saying it, real estate, right? It's the best real estate you can have out there. That's their first taste of your facility. Like you said, it should and could be up before you're even open. So you want to build the hype. Through a website, you're going to be able to tell people what they can expect to experience when they come in, but it also is going to help them just know that you exist, like you mentioned, from ranking on a Google search to coming up in meta ads. The other thing that I really encourage folks to do is take the customers along your journey, because they will invest in the journey just as much as you are as the one bringing it to life. So for some reason, thank you, social media, we love watching progress reels, right? Like we love it. Like seeing an empty, dirty room and like speeding it up with construction workers and putting the carpet down. Like people love that. Those are trending reels that are going to get you engagement. So it's going to build your following before you guys even have electricity, right? Like it's really cool to see that come along. So
Well,
it's very important for that.
I think too, there's two benefits as well. One, it helps, hey, who is our core group of customers that we're eventually going to want to bring into the doors. But also having those reels and the progress of it, where now you've got moms that are seeing some of that stuff and saying, ooh, my kid needs a job. Like we're going to, we can use some of that to even prime the pump of getting the word out that we're going to be looking to hire and doing some of that. And so in your eyes, is that like a 60 to 90 day lead time? Like, should we be having something around 2 or 3 months ahead of time to start telling that story and having some of that real estate in place so we can consistently drip in and kind of ping their radar, so to speak, across those couple of fronts?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a sweet spot to it. You don't want to have a website out there for a year where people either get sick of seeing you and hearing from you without them being able to go in and spend money with you.
Sure.
It's kind of like dangling the carrot and let down, right? But you also don't want to be opening your website up a month before you are opening your doors, right? You have to get the sweet spot. I encourage you doing it between, 6 to 4 months out. Because even if it's a coming soon page, a really good idea, if you're planning on doing, for example, maybe memberships, you could have a website launch and offer like a founder's membership, or it's going to be like a discounted. That way you're taking in revenue before you're even open, right? Because you've locked them into this membership at this aggressive price, right? So you can find ways to bring revenue in, build the hype up. So I would say sweet spot is between 6 to 4 months out.
Okay.
Where even if it's, again, just a coming soon and like maybe one page, and you can continue to add to it as your attractions are being built out to give more details of it.
I dig it. And then when you think about other things that will naturally become a part of that, of the website, whether it's, hey, we have folks fill out waivers and they can do that online, or they can start to look at, online booking or those memberships. Is that something that they should have on that early stage just so they can kind of get a feel for what that's going to be? Or do those get delayed a little bit where, hey, it's the coming soon and it's just planting some of the seeds, and then over the course as you get closer to actually opening that, then you start to add in some of those features? Because some of you may not have your online booking, like there's nothing to book, so we don't need to necessarily worry about it. But then you can do a post that's saying, hey, you can start booking on our lanes now and things, and leaving enough kind of lead time for them to get familiarized with that experience digitally.
Yeah, I definitely think that the website goes through phases or gets, kind of evolved. You want to dangle the carrot, become present online. If you're going to do some type of membership for a founders, that's a great, time to do that right away. From a booking perspective, usually about 2 months before you open, you're going to want to start doing make sure you're booking links like live on your website for dates that are going to be available once you are open.
Sure.
So that's what I would encourage. But what you could do in the meantime before you do the booking is, there's tools sets out there that allow you to collect customer data through, hey, join our newsletter, right? Enter our birthday club. You're collecting all that data, which is now going to allow you to remarket to folks as you either are opening or for further things down the road. So that, I would tell you, that data collection and that effort should be done as soon as the website's live.
Cool.
For sure.
Cool. So getting into some of those later layers where we have some booking and some waivers and on those kinds of things, we call it the software stack.
Sure.
When we think about the timing of that and how important that can be, when you look at your point of sale and how that integrates with your online booking and how that goes within your CRM system or capturing that customer data, and talking about that being at 60 days, that also gives them time to stress test the system and make sure that the systems are talking to each other and shaking hands and doing all of that. Because otherwise, I feel like if you leave that to the very last minute and it's, there's a ghost in the matrix, something is happening, like you don't have the same amount of time to be able to rectify that without compromising, I guess, expectations or experience that they have. When you then look, kind of getting even closer, let's call it, so at 4 to 6 months, we're doing the website. At 60 days out, and we're doing data collection and some info capture from then and starting to tell the story. And then we talk about that software stack and getting that, tested and integrated and up 60 days or, 8 weeks or so, give or take, out. Then we start to look at PPC and digital ads need that runway and ramp up. And so when do those start to go in? And also, what does PPC mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my first question I always ask when somebody wants to chat about PPC. I'm like, do you know what SEO is? Do you know what PPC is? Because people don't know, and that's okay. You don't know what you don't know, right? Ask the
Right.
questions. So,
Yeah.
paper PPC stands for pay-per-click ads.
Mm.
So you pay per click. So for Google and Meta, and they are two different animals. Some people do better on Meta running digital ads, and some do better on Google. There is no one size fits all. There's a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration. I definitely think that digital ads is a nice addition to having a website, but I will stress this to anybody who's running any business, but especially in our industry. If you don't have a good website that is having easy navigation, very clear call to actions, beautiful images, your ads will fail
Mm.
because you can have great ads, but if they are not able to find things when they actually make it to your website, they're not going to convert.
Gotcha.
So that's why the website is so important, because it's like your foundation.
Yeah.
You build everything builds on that.
Well, and even with some of that customer info capture at the earlier stages, like we were talking about, then when you are going for digital ads, you can feed those same people into the ads. So that way you're making sure, hey, yes, they're getting the newsletter, but we also know that we're jumping the line into their social media streams and other aspects where we can optimize some of that as well. So much of this stuff just builds on top of each other, and it allows you to know I am speaking to people that I know have an inherent interest because they've already expressed it, and I'm getting more efficiencies out of the pay-per-clicks and the conversions, and I'm not just kind of putting it out there for the entire ether to be able to absorb. I can actually be efficient with those dollars too.
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be just like throwing mud on the wall, right? It has
Right.
to be targeted digital advertising efforts. If you have a location, in Indianapolis, I don't really need to be catered to people in Orlando. They're not going to bring dollars through my door. It's got to be
Right.
targeted and a very, pointed efforts to make sure it's mean dollar amounts for you too.
And I also encourage people, hey, as you're in those early stages, you should also be, working the Chamber of Commerce and some of the local business organ entities that collab and share, because one, that's going to also, you want to look for people who are part of those groups and market to those groups as well, because it just
Yeah.
allows more organic discussion amongst themselves when you may not even be there, and or hey, the timing of that works out great because I was just at the chamber, I met these people, and then the next few days I'm honing in that message to those folks.
Mhm.
So as we get to the point of actually opening, and we've done this runway of 4 to 6 weeks on the pay-per-click ads and the digital ads, what then, you had a great way of putting this, of like ongoing marketing is not a one size fits all.
Right.
And so when we look at that, how do you see customers successfully adjust the marketing strategy and presence after they've opened versus the storytelling and the awareness and kind of priming the pump? Now the doors are open. What are some of the shifts in strategy and intention and action that we're trying to get out of them now?
Sure. So the number one thing they want to understand or know is, what's your goal? Is your goal obviously to bring more revenue in, but is that through admission? Is that through ticket sales? Is that through booking birthday parties? Is it through memberships? Maybe your goal isn't just revenue. Maybe it's, I want to grow my following, right? Or my engagement online. So you have to know what your goal is, and that's how you can, pivot and use your digital ads to meet those goals. Meta ads specifically are very good for promotion. So, we had a customer that really wanted to push a weekday. They had like a racing event every week, and their weekday one never really sold out because it's weekday, right? And people,
Mm-hmm.
that's harder by nature. We started doing targeted geographic ads for them, for this specific event. So we weren't just throwing like regular just ads at them. It was specific for this racing event, and it sold out. So if you have targeted efforts and they're targeted to the area, it can work, right? So
Mm-hmm.
her goal was, I want to sell this event out. So that's what you do. So you have to know, what your goal is. Also, you have to know how to read your data. You should see your data in your software of choice so that you can see what is selling the best. You may think that you're crushing it in a certain party package, and then really this other one's selling way better, right? And so you have to be able to digest your data too, and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, well, and also be willing to experiment. This is the kind of behind the scenes benefits that I get of working hand in hand with Danny so much on some of our marketing approaches is, hey, we're going to try a frequency and duration period for this type of content and see what we get. Okay, great. Now that we've tried sending it out, whether it was even email notifications or what have you of, hey, this group of people really respond more to this when we send something out in the afternoon versus the morning. And so, and that's the piece where it's not a perfect science where you don't necessarily know what the data is telling you right out of the gate. And so you have to kind of internalize and understand. You may see the what, but you don't understand the why behind it. And that's what you've got to be open to trying different ways, or, okay, hey, if this particular type of messaging didn't quite resonate, like, let's look at who were we sending it to, when were we sending it to them, what kind of lead time did we have for it. Okay, let's experiment with the knobs and the levers a little bit to adjust it to see then, and what we can kind of change, small adjustments one at a time to see where and how that could, start to have a bigger ripple and bigger impact, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And, knowing and being aware of, like, that takes time too. It's not an instant, like, you have to run certain ads for a couple of months, right? To see, is it really working or not? So it's not instant, it takes dedication, to actually an investment. It's not just a quick turn on, turn off. You need to kind of ride it out, like you're saying, and ride the waves out, change it, pivot to see what's going to, make the most sense for you.
I dig it. Well, before I let us go, one thing that I always love to ask is, is there a book or a podcast or a quote that you've either had for forever that you love that's helped shape who you are, or something that's really just scratched you where you itch recently that's been a nice piece for you that you'd like to share with the listeners and the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually in the middle of finishing up a book by Emily Freeman called The Next Right Thing. It's all about decision making. So we know that our owners and operators, and just us and humans in general, are hit with thousands of decisions every day.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands. So it's had like process for making decisions, and it's, really helpful to understand how to do that, big and small ones, and what kind of drives it. So decision making, that's a great book. And my favorite quote I would say that I use personally, but is very applicable to our industry, is do what you love and the money will follow.
Love it. Yeah.
If you have a passion about what you do and you want to help people and you want to make a difference, and whatever your passion is, do it. And naturally you'll see success because you're doing the right thing with the right intention behind it.
Heck yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Man, and like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, it's those kinds of things of just how you show up and what drives you that looking forward to having you at the next 360 in September.
Oh,
and we'll sorry, go ahead.
I said, I can't wait.
Oh man, we have way more fun than we deserve, and yet it's still such a meaningful impact because it's just that entrepreneurial boot camp for people looking to make a difference and do all of that. So I'm excited for that, and we'll make sure I'm going to add that to our book list for the 360 event as well. And if you guys want to be able to register for that and you're listening to it and you want to sign up, great. And you can also reach out to Courtney and the team, and they'll have some registration codes that you guys can use too. But man, looking forward to that with great gusto. And with that, I think we're at an awesome spot to be able to wrap up. And so we've got more content coming through on the weekly episodes, so be sure to come back and check it out wherever you get your podcasts. If you liked what you heard today, please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We always appreciate those 5 stars when we've earned them. And if you have ideas for future episodes, be sure to hit us up on social media as well, and we'll be getting those into the mix. Thank you to Mikey Mike on the 1s and 2s working the Ultranet for us. Thank you so much, Courtney, and appreciate all you troublemakers out there listening to this, and we'll catch you on the next one.